Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. And this is episode 140, Leaving Academia and Scholarly Writing. Today is one of our interview episodes, and I'm lucky to have Chris Caterine with me today. He is the author of Leaving Academia from Princeton University Press. And there it is. It's in the back. I'm going to order a copy to have my grad students look at it. And what we're going to be talking about today is a question that sometimes we'll get from some of our clients that are considering leaving academia once they've already completed a dissertation and they've written this big thing, this big project. And then they wonder, well, if I leave academia, I did all this writing, I did all this work. And so I'm going to just start with a general question to Chris, and we're going to just let the conversation go wherever it goes. But just to ask you, you've authored this book, you've left academia. And what would you do with this question when somebody thinks, well, if I leave academia, I will never write a scholarly article again. I'll never get to do research again. I will lose that part of my, we could say, call it a scholarly identity, call it a writerly identity. But what happens? What has been your experience?
One of the best things about leaving academia is that you get to choose how you spend your time. And so if that matters to you and you want to make it a priority, you are absolutely free to continue working on scholarship. I have plenty of friends who do. I actually had a book chapter come out after I left the academy that I finished sort of right as I was trying to leave. And so I still had some scholarly activity that continued. But other than that, my interest actually went in a different direction. And so for me, I found that actually writing was a smaller part of my identity than maybe I had convinced myself it was, going through running the gauntlet of graduate school and believing that was a core part of my identity. But then I found sort of other ways to write and other modes of writing that were distinct from scholarship.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and so one of the ways I see that you found a mode that remained the same has been doing a university press book about this experience. So I wondered if you could talk to us a little bit about that, about why you ended up writing the book, how you ended up choosing to go with the university press, even though you're not taking maybe a traditional university track right now. If you could talk about that for a second.
I mean, ego is one piece of it. After spending 10 years in academia, like leaving and not getting something to university press did nag at me. I'm not going to lie. At the same time, for me, the other thing that really drove writing this book is that a lot of people helped me as I was leaving the academy. And I really wanted to capture those lessons. I'd started writing a blog where I was kind of explaining how I felt as I went through the process, and some friends said, hey, that might make a neat book. So for me to actually go and to start consolidating that into a coherent narrative with my story and the stories of other people that could help other people navigate what for me was a very difficult and depressing process, that really kind of kept me going. So a little bit of ego led me to a university press, but there was also this real desire to help people after I'd been helped so much. And the university press also was important to me because I think academics are distrustful sometimes of vanity presses and other presses. And so for me, having a peer review process, having other people look at this and say, yes, this actually meets our expectations and is useful to a scholarly audience, that was important to me because I believe that the resource I was producing would be trusted more by having a university press in my back, and would keep me intellectually honest about what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're onto something there, because I said this, I actually just had this conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago that's a PhD student looking to leave academia. It was a PhD in history, and we all know the market for history. So this was somebody that they just knew that it was not going to happen, probably, at least in a traditional kind of a sense. And I know one of the things that we said was that, there's nothing that stops you from putting out this type of research in a way that you want to do it, because you still have those skills. Like, your skills didn't go away just because you didn't get the tenure track prize at the end of the job hunt. So, I think you're right too, to also get on the idea that, universities, academics, either PhD students that might be at this point, or even academics that are, been on a tenure track job for a while and they really hate it. They get there and they're like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. I think what you're putting out there, if you give it to them through a university press route, which is, like, as you noted, something they trust. They know to look there. That's one of the places where they might look to try to find the answers. And it doesn't sound like a lot of guides are doing that right now for them.
Yeah, and I will say a lot has been produced in the last 3 to 5 years. And so my book came out in 2020. When I started writing it in beginning of 2018, there were a few things, but really not a whole lot. And the market really has increased significantly, I think, as more attention has come onto this problem. And that's something that's really nice to see, actually, is that my book is not sort of a lone voice, but actually is participating in a bigger dialogue about kind of what type of help people need, how do you best deliver it, and yeah, so it's actually been exciting to see that I kind of came in at the start of a wave of continuing support for people.
Cool. And so for our final question today, I know you're in consulting. So why don't you tell us what you're doing now? You've left academia. What are you doing? And if you could also hit on what kinds of writing you might be doing as part of your new position.
Yeah, so I left in 2017, and my initial job was actually doing proposal writing for a global consulting firm. So essentially, when we went out to win new business, part of my job was to talk to people on the account, people with subject matter expertise and whatever the client was asking us to do, and work with graphic designers to come together and kind of wrestle all of the details that were held in the heads of about 20 different people, and help to tell a coherent story about why it made the most sense for the client to select us over a competitor. And so I actually went from job writing, research and scholarship, to a job where I was writing every day but sort of very different topic. So that was my first job, and then about 2 years ago, I transitioned to a role actually managing those projects. Helping to direct the work of the individuals who have that knowledge in their heads, the writers who are trying to extract it, the graphic designers who are trying to figure out how to depict it, and all that. So it's been an interesting journey, but writing has still very much been a part of it. And 3 minutes before I joined this call, I was helping to revise a section of a proposal that's due next week.
Okay, so, and I think this is a very encouraging picture for somebody that likes to write. So at Defend, Publish, and Lead, we do promote trying to promote a realistic but a positive association with writing. It's not positive for everybody. It's not positive all the time, but, we do talk about how to make writing at least workable for you. It's part of your rhythm. It's part of your writing systems. And it sounds to me like even though you're not in an academic position, you're still using all those same skills in a way that's, satisfying. You still get the intellectual challenges of doing certain projects and so on. So is there anything else that you want people to know? We've got about a minute or two left that you might want to share that for somebody that's considering leaving academia, besides buying your book, but besides that.
Absolutely. I really didn't ever think of myself as a strong writer or a strong scholar in many ways. And so it was sort of a part of my identity that, again, sort of got heaped on me and that I undertook as an academic. One thing that surprised me when I came into business was that the modes of writing were different, and I started to like writing more. And it's more about getting content out quickly and then having somebody take a look and say, is this good or is it not? And you kind of find out what those weak spots are much faster in the process. And then you go back and you do it again and you rely on other experts. And it's a much more collaborative process. And whereas I think as an academic, writing was often felt like a chore to me. It became more stimulating and more exciting after I left. And so for people who are thinking about leaving and like writing, or even people who are thinking about leaving and hate writing, there are actually an awful lot of jobs in business that require an academic's ability to capture diverse types of information and synthesize it in a way that's clear and compelling. And you can do that in a way that's again, stimulating, but also in a way that can be more fun than actually what you experience today, if you're open to it.
I think this is a great way to close out this episode because, we also have a fair share of clients that are coming to us for writing coaching that they can do all the research in the world. They love all the research. They love making presentations, but when the time comes, they don't want to put words on paper. And, it sounds like there's a lane for people like that potentially. So,
and the sciences have this down. There's a whole field of science communications. And I think especially folks from the humanities can potentially look to that for a model.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us today. And I will make sure that I post a link to your work in the show notes and people can check out what you do. But thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Christine.